All right, everyone. Welcome into KBO Chats Live. I'm Sam Pascal alongside Eric Halterman. Your comments are welcome. We are here to answer and talk everything about the KBO League. Hashtag KBO League. Hashtag KBO on Twitter. That would mix it up there. Eric, how you doing? I got my sleeveless shirt here.
Topless, yeah.
Topless, sleeveless. It's a live stream. You can't see below here. You don't know what's going on. But how are we feeling right now? We're getting settled into KBO. We got the NPB starting up. Japan's league. How are we feeling right now?
I'm feeling a bit more clothed, but other than that, feeling pretty good. Uh, a little bit more optimism about MLB than a few days ago. I mean, things change every couple hours, it seems like, but we may have baseball over here soon, and we got MPB starting up in Japan. I just wrote up our daily cheat sheet for the opening day slate over there for anyone who wants to check that out. So it's pretty good times in baseball land, I think.
Yeah, if you've been following along with the John Heyman and all the tweets going on, we don't know what's going on, but hopefully some good stuff. So until then, we got some great KBO, some great Korean baseball coverage. So we're
Yeah.
already getting the comments open up here. Go to our shared screen. What's up with the Dinos? And that's where I want to start it. Start it right off here, Eric. What is up with the Dinos? I see right here. What is this? I noticed when you look into streak, 2-game losing streak. What is this? This is supposed to be the league leading the best team in the league, 26-11. What is going on with the Dinos right now?
I would say the main thing that's going on, well, they've lost five of their last seven, four of their last five, but they've played a quite tough stretch of the schedule. The Bears, they took 2 of 3 from the Bears, which is pretty good. Losing 2 of 3 to the Heroes, it's not terrible. They're 1 game shy of winning that series. Losing 2 to the Tigers and getting denied the chance to avoid the sweep due to a rainout last night. Again, you'd think they would take at least one, but Tigers have some good pitching. And I think they beat up on the Dinos bullpen the first game, and there was a rare bad game by Mike Wright in the second one or the first one. I might be mixing them up, but none of the individual games are that big a surprise. All those teams are teams that you're not surprised would beat the Dinos every now and then. So I'm still on the Dinos as the best team in the league. I think it's not at all surprising to have the best team go through a bit of a down stretch when they're playing a tough schedule. Now, if they lose 2 or 3 to the Eagles or something, then we'll start to really worry. But there's no real shame in losing a few to good teams. So I think I'd give them a bit of time to sort things out before I'd worry too much.
Yeah, because I just so used to the Dinos winning each and every night, going on these crazy stretches. I think for KBO fans, it is unusual now to see this top team now struggle. I mean, Kia, you got to respect their pitching. What's going on right here? First or second in these categories, they limit runs per game like anything under 5, which is very impressive when you consider the KBO offense that is available in this league. So maybe it's not quite time to panic on the Dinos. We're getting some comments now. Eagles suck. I'm going Dinos -2. Well, that leads us right into our daily lineups here. I don't know. Well, the Eagles are pretty bad. I guess that is a fair assessment. Comments are welcome in the section here. But what are we thinking about with the Eagles Dinos? You mentioned they're probably not going to lose two of 3 against them. But is there any hope for the Eagles here?
Would say probably not in this one. This is maybe the most lopsided game of the year. We were denied the chance to see Changmo Koo versus Drew Gagnon, which would have been a real good matchup last night in Dinos Tigers. That got rained out. Poor Eagles. They got Koo pushed to them. Koo destroys everybody. He's given up like 4 runs or something all season, and he couldn't ask for an easier matchup than this one. The Eagles went right back to their losing ways this week. But yeah, so it's not going to get much more lopsided in this one. You got the best pitcher in the league going against a guy who hasn't even started a game this season in Bum-Soo Kim. So I would be very confident in the Dinos tonight. I'm very happy to start pretty much any Dinos hitter. Obviously, very happy to start Koo. On FanDuel, Koo is like a mid-priced option, which is crazy. I think what happened there is they might have released the contest before the rainout, so they didn't know that it was going to be Koo going tonight. So I think he's the biggest bargain I've seen on any site all season. It's a little unfortunate because that basically means if you're not, you either have to join almost literally everybody else in starting him because the matchup's so good, or you have to willingly turn down the best bargain of the year just to differentiate yourself from the crowd. So it's almost too bad that he's that cheap, but I'll be all over it. I mean, you don't get a bigger mismatch than this one.
Yeah, when you look at the ERAs, I mean, less than 1, 5-0. When you compare that to the 1-3, 4.45 ERA of Kim, it just doesn't look like a contest at all. We're seeing here in the comments, Dinos over 6.5 runs, according to our handy RotoWire tool here. The consensus is set at 9.5 total runs. Do we think the Dinos will be able to beat up enough on the Eagles? I mean, how do you factor in that day off yesterday? You think they'll be a little cold, or you think they can explode and score 7, 8, 9, 10 runs on their own?
Yeah, I mean, it might be a much-needed reset after a couple cold games. I would be very happy with them scoring more than 6.5. They're averaging more than 6.5 already, so that wouldn't even be an unusual game for them. And they're playing somebody who has only pitched in relief this year and hasn't been particularly good. His ERA is fine, but Kim's underlying numbers are not that great.
Yeah, because you just know that the Eagles are basically going to score 0 runs, one or two if they're lucky, if they get to the bullpen early, but that's very unlikely. So any sort of over total, you got to look at the Dinos just slugging their way through this game. So hopefully that off day yesterday will help with that. Some of their comments in here, we got a question from Lightning Picks, noticing our articles. Great job checking out the articles on rotowire.com. What is the official status here? Eric, I defer to you for this question.
Yeah, he is starting Friday, but that would be tonight's contest, as in Friday evening over in Korea, Friday early morning here. I get hung up on that often still too, but everything I've seen says he's going tonight's game, which is tomorrow morning's game.
Yes, the time zone difference can be a little confusing. Not always fun getting up for those 4 a.m., 1 a.m. But, yep, there we go again. Where is it here? Yeah, good point. Haha, Friday is tonight. Yes. Oh, quarantine or any days at all. Monday, Friday, they're all the same. But looking at around the rest of the lineups here, seeing what we have on our Friday slate, we're asking here, what other locks are we looking at here? Taking a look at a brand new slate of series. We talked about the best and the worst teams according to our standings, Dinos and Eagles at the top and bottom, respectively. Looking at these other series, Eric, what stands out to you as being lopsided, not as much as the Dinos-Eagles series, but maybe a little bit more than you would expect?
Yeah, that's definitely by far the biggest lock. The other 4 games all look to be pretty close tonight. So I was doing that, preparing for my pick'em game that we've been sending out every night, and I wasn't feeling too great about picking any of the other teams. I did like the Lions-Tigers under because I think both David Buchanan and Drew Gagnon, they're two of the 3 pitchers who I talked about in my cheat sheet earlier today. So that one I think could be a low-scoring game. That would probably be my second favorite pick of the day.
We're getting some other picks here. Samsung versus Doosan. That was, I believe, the series that just wrapped up. Now we have the Lions taking on the Tigers. But you mentioned that the under, and Sensei here also mentions that as well. How confident are you in these foreign American players dominate lineups tonight, beginning halfway through this week? Because Buchanan, maybe the ERA over 3.5, but has been pretty solid when you look at his recent outings.
Yeah, I'm definitely more confident in Gagnon than Buchanan tonight. I recommended them both, partially because both of the lineups are fairly weak. Gagnon has incredible strikeout to walk numbers, close to Kuz, within a couple percentage points on the strikeouts and slightly better on the walks. So I think he's somebody who you could see finish with an ERA below 3, unless there's something I'm missing that explains why he's underperforming his peripherals. Buchanan, as is mentioned there, is definitely a possible regression guy. His strikeout numbers are merely good. I think, he's only allowed like 3 earned runs over his last 4 starts. I don't think he's that good, but I'm still pretty happy with him tonight because I still think at worst he's an above average starter and he's got a pretty easy matchup. So I definitely agree on the season as a whole. I don't consider him to be in the Gagnon tier, Drew Wyshynski tier, the Chang Mo-Koo tier. I don't think he's quite there, but it's hard to argue with what he's done lately, and he's got, as you highlighted, some strong performances against good teams. So I think I would be happy to see him continue tonight, especially because he's not pitching at home. The Lions have the most hitter-friendly home park, and when he gets to avoid that, he hasn't even given up a run yet in 2 starts. So I like him tonight for sure, which means I'm not a big fan of either of the team's hitters tonight because I'm a big fan of both pitchers.
Yeah, you got to consider the entire lens of the matchup offense and the pitching matchups. I mean, when you look at Buchanan's numbers, that's what we're looking at right now. He's faced Doosan and NC, limited just to 1 run between both of them. How confident are you in him going forward? You mentioned maybe not so much, but Lightning picks here saying 13 innings, 0 earned runs on the road. I mean, that's got to be worth something here. Maybe the long ball gets to him a little too much. Three bombs against the Twins, 2 against the Wiz in his last starting. But tell me, this looks like this could be the making of the next Drew Rosinski coming down into the summer months.
Yeah, I'd just like to see him strike out more guys if I was really going to think that he's a dominant top-tier starting pitcher. So he's a guy who, as long as he's a pretty good price, which he is tonight, I think he's right in the middle of the pack on DraftKings at least. Definitely somebody I like as long as I don't have to pay as if he's an absolutely elite option.
Yeah, because those strikeout numbers just don't say that as well when you mention that, right? 3, 5, 3, those are not quite elite level numbers. So moving on, Sensei says, my bad, Tigers. Yes, Lions, Tigers, and Bears. Oh my, let's talk about the Bears now. Get the big trio. Little shout out, Wizard of Oz. Deuce Bears, LG Twins. I'm looking at 220 plus win teams right here. This looks like this could be maybe the decider for who's going to be in second place coming down the stretch in a couple months. How are we feeling about the Bears Twins series?
Yeah, it's a huge series. These are 2 of the biggest rivals in the KBO. They're both called the same stadium home, Gems Hill Baseball Stadium. They're both in Seoul. As far as I know, it's the biggest rivalry. It's going to be an interesting one. The Bears are definitely trending down lately. They finally ended I think it was a 4-game losing streak. They won the final game against the Lions, but they dropped 2 to the Eagles and then 2 to the Lions. They're definitely not at their best. They've had plenty of pitching injuries this season. Early in the year, it looked like you could start their 2 through 4 hitters every night. That was Jose Fernandez, JLO, and Jaewon Kim. But it's really just Fernandez that's still at that level right now. JLO has been injured twice, and Jaewon Kim has really struggled in the last several weeks. He's dropping down to like 6th in the order. He's somebody I'd expect to come back eventually. I think he's might be an MVP or at least a Korean Series MVP, but he's been down lately. So it's definitely not the Bears team we were seeing earlier in the year. They're still a fine squad, and they've got any number of decent hitters who sometimes jump up into the top few spots that become interesting whenever they're there. I've been on Kunwoo Park lately. He started quite cold, but has been very hot over his last 15 games. He's been injured in 2 games this week, but he's returned in both of them. And since the Bears are so left-handed, he, as the lone righty who is near the top of the order, is somebody I would like tonight against Woo Chan Cha, who's a lefty. Not very good Bears pitching, at least in the first 2 this series. Young Ha Lee and Won Jun Choi aren't going to scare anybody, so I would like the Twins hitters, at least in the first couple games. Roberto Ramos came back on Thursday from his brief absence with ankle and back issues. He walked 3 times, so I assume that means he's healthy. I think it was 3 walks and 2 strikeouts. So I'm not sure we've actually seen him put the ball in play yet, but we got to assume he's healthy since he's back in the lineup. So he's somebody I would certainly like tonight. I would definitely slightly favor the Twins tonight, given the pitching matchup. Woo Chan Cha is decent. Nobody I'd be scared to use Bears hitters against. But Young Ha Lee for the Bears has been quite bad. He's struck out just like 1 or 2 more batters than he's walked all year. He's got an ERA above 5. So definitely, I think, side with the Twins tonight.
Yeah, and speaking of that horrible Bears pitching staff and Roberto Ramos, if he is fully healthy now, what are we looking at in terms of offense? We're getting a question here. Over 10 Doosan versus LG runs. Consensus
I
pick says it's set at 10 and 10.3. So how do we feel about that high run total?
I'd be pretty happy with the over. The one thing to note is it is the most pitcher-friendly park in the league. But when you have a struggling starting pitcher versus a decent but not too special starting pitcher, given these offenses, I'd be feeling pretty comfortable with the over.
Yes, and Pitt have been struggling when you look at their ERA numbers, highlighting that now. Again, in case you're just tuning in, it's KBO Chats live. Your comments and questions on the KBO, that's what we're here to answer and talk about. We're breaking down each series here, talking about who you need to target for your DFS lineup, and also who you can pick in our KBO Pick'em as well over on Twitter. So let us know in the comments. We're getting through a lot of people's questions and thoughts on what's going on in the KBO. We got another one here. Any opinions on the possibility of extra innings? We take a step back looking at all the games we got for tomorrow morning / tonight, however that works. What do we think about extra innings? Does that impact at all? Because I understand there's some unusual rules actually in the KBO in regards to extra innings.
Right. Yeah. Not sure exactly what the question's asking. It's tough to predict which, if any, game is going to go to extra innings ahead of time. I guess you could say maybe the Lions Tigers is likely because just low scoring means it's easier to be tied. But for any given game, I would never specifically expect extra innings to happen. As you noted, though, the extra innings rules are interesting. They play no more than 12 innings, and if it's tied at the end of 12, it's a tie. I'm actually a big fan of that. I think that might be heresy, but I think if two teams are equally good, they should share the spoils. That seems pretty fair to me. If all of the listeners just drop off the stream right now, sorry about that, but I'd be perfectly fine with that. I think if you're equally good, you're equally good. So.
Yeah, we almost had one the other night, and we haven't had one yet. We take a look at the standings here on rotowire.com. But you never know. You never know. It's crazy stuff has happened. So hopefully we'll see maybe a tie, maybe tonight. We don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But moving on to our next series, we're looking at the Lotte Giants KT Wiz series. Taking a look at where these rank in the standings. We got the Wiz at 8th, Giants just 2 spots better at 6th, both in teens in terms of 16 wins and 19 wins. But when we look at the streaks over here, the Wiz 3 wins in their last 3 games, while the Giants have lost their last 2. Do you give the Wiz the edge here? Are they maybe getting back on track and maybe the Giants are falling, maybe like expected when you have a defensive-minded foreign import like Dixon Machado?
Yeah, actually, speaking of Machado, he started to finally do a little bit. I think he was super homer happy after hitting, I think it was 4 homers in his first 11 games, which was more than he had in his entire MLB career, which was 150 to 200 games, I think. Then he had a terrible slump, but he's doing okay again as a contact hitter. But this series overall, I think it should be a fun one. It's 2 bottom half teams that have shown something at times. The Giants have had a couple runs. They were 5-0 at one point. They had a recent run where they won a bunch of games in a row too. Don't particularly trust them, but they've shown something. And the Wiz, as we've said before, they've got quite the offense. If they could ever put some pitching together, they could make a run. I think this series as a whole is going to be pretty high scoring. I don't trust any of the 6 pitchers going in any of the 3 games. The Giants don't score a lot of runs in general, but the Wiz can give up runs to anybody. Their 3 starters, Jasong Bay, I think he's got decent numbers, but not really good underlying numbers. His ERA is fine. I would probably agree that he's the better starter tonight, but I don't think he's as good as his ERA suggests. His strikeout and walk numbers aren't particularly impressive. And their other 2 starters, Hyunjun Seo and Min-Soo Kim, aren't impressive at all either. I think we're going to see lots of runs in all 3 games.
Yeah, we're getting a VB asking here about the KT pitching advantage. We know the bullpen, KT was infamous on Twitter a little while ago for having just a horrible bullpen, losing leads after having them in the 8th inning or later. How do we feel about the pitching staff in terms of the bullpen aspect? once you kind of get past these starters.
Yeah, I mean, I still doubt that there's a reason to believe that their bullpen is suddenly good after a couple good games. But it was the kind of thing where you knew they couldn't be as bad going forward as they were at the start. I mean, they were just blowing everything. And you got to figure they're going to sort through guys until they find somebody who's decent. I would still imagine they have, a bottom third, bottom half bullpen. But that was one of the things we needed to see from them earlier in the year, because they were outscoring their opponents, but they kept losing these close games. So that should start to normalize. Most of those things tend to normalize. So maybe we no longer have to treat the Wiz as if they're absolutely terrible in that regard, but it's going to take a bit longer than a few games before I think they're actually good.
Yeah, and that's reflected in their rankings, 9th in terms of the pitching staff overall. It's just not a good situation their pitching staff is in right now. But turning our attention over to the Lotte Giants, I do see some NPB questions, which we will get to. But finishing up with this series specifically, how do we feel about their total runs as a team? Just specifically looking at the Giants, that's what SG here is asking about. Lotte team runs 4.5 under. You mentioned Machado getting a little low in the lineup. Could he get home run happy against this horrible Wiz pitching staff that we're talking about?
I wouldn't be too confident in that under tonight, just because, like I said, I'm not a big fan of Bay. I think he's a guy who deserves an ERA closer to low fours. I don't think it'd be necessarily Machado to be the one to drive in all those runs. But yeah, if you look at that whip, nothing too special. In general, more mediocre than a 2.66 ERA would suggest. So I wouldn't feel too confident in that under. It doesn't seem terrible to me, but it's not something I'd highlight as an extremely good bet. And as you can see, he's had a couple bad starts in his last 3. I think he was getting kind of lucky earlier. He really only had one game where he was striking out way more guys than he walked. If you look at those strikeout and walk numbers for the last 5 starts, it's pretty close to even on those 2. So that's the sign of a pitcher who's been overachieving on the course of the season, I think.
Yeah, when you look at what he's been doing on the road, it's been, like you said, mediocre. Yes, he had the solid start against Lotte last time, but 4 runs, 6 runs, and even when you consider this victory against Hanwha, you gotta put an asterisk next to that. Okay, 7 shutout innings, but they're basically a minor league team at this point. So yeah, it's great that RotoWire here. You can check out the guy's stats in more depth, like we're talking about. So definitely recommend checking that out. And as I said, we got some other NPB questions here. Joe Anthony, any opinions on Japan baseball? Any NPB love? Guys, keep the comments coming. We're here for you, answering your questions. We'll take a look at the NPB page here right now. Where should we go? Where is it here? RotoWire and NPB. Take a quick little tangent off talking about this. But Eric, what are we looking at for the NPB overall, giving it some love?
I've got a article worth of opinions right there. Not sure how much we're going to incorporate into this show. I guess that's something we might play by ear. If there's a strong demand for it, maybe we'll talk about shaking things up. But if you want DFS advice, I'll be doing the same daily cheat sheet that I've been doing for KBO stuff. We'll have player news, lineups, projected starting pitchers, all that good stuff. So excited to dive into it with everybody. Got some of my top picks in that cheat sheet, which I could recommend people check out. It might be unlocked, I'm not sure, but should be fun to play along there. They've got the same, pretty similar foreign player rules. You can have up to 4 on the active roster there, up to 3 pitchers, up to 3 hitters. So if you want to pick a team to get involved with, become a fan of, should be able to find some people who used to play for your favorite MLB team and follow along out there. We'll see what happens regarding any sort of MPB show. I guess we'll see what the fans want. But for now, we'll definitely have articles and stats and lineups and that sort of thing.
Yes, we got it all here on rotowire.com, so be sure to check that out. We got you covered all the sports going on right now during these crazy times. Thank you guys for tuning in. Get some great thanks here in the comments. We still got Another series to talk about here. We're not done with the KBO just quite
Yeah.
yet. I know the NPB is a brand new kid on the block in terms of baseball under COVID, but the KBO is still crack-a-lacking here. We got the Kiwoom Heroes that could maybe be the new #1 team when we see power rankings drop next week. Maybe. Eric, what are we thinking about this SK Kiwoom series where both teams have actually been pretty decent since about the past 10 games or so?
Yeah, the Wyverns have started falling off again. They lost 3 in a row, and they're pretty much dropping down to the bottom 2, I think, after a decent run at one point. I would generally take the Heroes in most games this series, but the first game is fairly tilted towards the Wyverns, at least in terms of the starting pitchers. Sungwon Moon for the Wyverns has very strong strikeout and walk numbers, striking out over 24%, walking less than 5%. It hasn't shown up in his ERA yet, but he's been pitching better than you'd think, judging by the ERA. And Hyun-Hee Han for the Heroes is a guy who's converted back to the rotation after being a pretty good reliever the last year or two. He's been pretty mediocre. So I think that'll make it for a pretty tight game tonight with that gap in the starting pitchers favoring the Wyverns, whereas the lineups favor the Heroes. I'm a big fan of most of the top Heroes hitters. Not necessarily tonight against Moon, but definitely in the second game against Gunwook Lee, who doesn't have very good peripherals, and probably in the final game of the series against Ricardo Pinto, who turned things around after a couple awful starts, but is still not particularly good. So I would like the Heroes in the next two. The tonight I haven't been recommending or using them because I am a little bit worried of Moon.
For anyone just tuning in, Eric's referencing our KBO starting pitcher projections here, projected starters page here on rotowire.com. Some more comments coming in. Do you guys do this daily? We are Monday and Thursday as of right now, lightning picks. We could be more. Let us know what you guys want to see more of, and we'll do it. We're here for you guys and your baseball entertainment. Other questions here. Wyverns, take Wyverns tonight. What are we feeling confident in the Wyverns? I mean, when you look at what they've been doing recently, I would say, no way, Jose,
Right.
losing to the Wiz, and the Tigers losing 2 of 3. Are they an underdog pick tonight that you might feel confident in because of the starting pitching?
Yeah, pretty much just tonight. I'm generally pretty much off the Wyverns. I do still like a couple of their hitters. Jung Choi and Jamie RoMac have woken up after some terrible starts. They're a decent core to the lineup, but in general, they just don't have the depth, and their pitching's been pretty mediocre. The under tonight, that could be interesting because even though I'm not a big fan of the hero starter, Hyun-Hee Han, I'm not sure the Wyverns will put up a big number on him. So I could see a 5-3 kind of game being pretty realistic there. That'd be something I'd be interested in for sure. The Heroes can score on anybody, but I think Moon is actually decent. So I think he'll keep them in the game.
Yeah, looking at these lineups, a notable name that stands out here is Jamie RoMac. How is these offensive teams, you said maybe more low scoring, but is there any chance that the foreign bats can make an impact and turn this into a higher scoring game, or do you think it's going to be all in the pitching?
Maybe. Han for the Heroes is not really been that good, pretty mediocre. So could definitely see RoMac and Choi having some big days. RoMac is like walking all the time. Batting average is still pretty mediocre and only 6 homers, but his overall numbers have been pretty good. I guess maybe he's cooled off his walks a little bit over the last week, but if you scroll down a bit, that's like 7 walks in 5 games or something. He's a strong on-base percentage guy, but he hasn't quite had the power or the average that the Wyverns need. And given that they don't have a ton of depth behind him, they haven't been able to win games even as he and Choi are waking up.
Yeah, you'd like to have some more power, from that first base position. Former Arizona Diamondback, former Dodger, was with the Padres in their minor league system that never actually played a game for them at the pro level. But he is getting on base, and I guess that's worth something here. Maybe you can talk a little bit about, as we wrap up here, talking about DraftKings, the prize pools. Do we look maybe at a guy that walks a lot to fill out and kind of round out a lineup? Or are we all kind of targeting big power guys, which recently RoMac has not been?
Yeah, I mean, a couple walks isn't going to get you what you want, especially because he's still pretty expensive. I think like people who played Roberto Ramos in his first game back last night were probably pretty disappointed to just get a handful of walks. I think this question might be asking about the prize pools for KBO versus NPB. If that's the case, I'm not actually sure, but we will definitely have plenty of NPB coverage. We'll see about working it into this show or not, but there's definitely going to be plenty of stuff on RotoWire for you there.
Yes, we got it all here. Always check out the website, rotowire.com. The little screen here. Look at that. Beautiful. Right there on the front page. And then right here on our handy dandy toolbar, KBO, that's what we're talking about right now. KBO Chats live. Thank you guys for all your comments and interaction. We're here to answer your questions. And I think that's pretty much it. We can take a quick look at our news. Great page here. Looking at injuries and player performance. Looking at all these players. Dan Straley, if you didn't know what he did last night, head over here. 12 strikeouts in the no decision. Did that surprise you, Eric, when you see a guy put up 12 Ks on the board that he then didn't get the win? Or is that something you come to expect for the Lotte Giants that have pretty much been disappointing recently?
Yeah, it's that one. That's happened to him before. He has one win this year. He's got a 2.10 ERA and one win. That's unfortunately the problem with him in fantasy is even if he does really well, you're not guaranteed to get those bonus points for the win. But wins are pretty hard to predict. So pretty generally, I'm just sticking with whoever's a really good pitcher. He certainly pitched well enough for a win last night. He actually got out-dueled by was it Sung Ho Lee for the Heroes, who hasn't been all that good, but shut down the Giants. The Giants are not all that hard to shut down, so it's not going to be the first time, not going to be the last time either for Straley.
Yes, that is disappointing. Finally here, Sean says thanks. There we go. Thanks, Sean, as well. Any injuries of note that maybe would impact the last-minute stack, or if you can't get to your lineup in time, anything notable here?
Well, Roberto Ramos coming back was the biggest one in recent days. Kunwoo Park for the Bears, who I mentioned, he's somebody I like tonight as a righty going against left-handed Woo-Chan Cha. He's left with injuries twice, but I think he's come back both times the next day. But it's one to keep an eye on. And then Baekho Gong of the Wiz, he just recently came back from a 3-week absence with a wrist injury. He dealt with a little hamstring thing and sat for one game, but he did return as a pinch hitter, as you're showing there, which means he's probably good to go going forward. But it's possible that's a minor thing that he's still dealing with.
All right. I think that wraps up everything, just about. Thank you guys again for checking us out here, rotowire.com. Follow us on Twitter at RotoWireKBO for all your KBO and all your international Asian baseball news, as well as that is beginning today, tomorrow. But whenever the games are, they're happening very soon, and we got you covered. Eric, any final words here?
No, I'm just excited to play some NPB tonight. It's going to be probably a Wild West for the first couple days in NPB Daily Fantasy because a whole lot of new players are going to be joining who know very little. So hopefully just by doing a little research over here, reading this cheat sheet, checking out whatever else we got going on, hopefully that'll give you the edge you need. I think the first couple days of KBO this season were totally all over the place in terms of prices and things like that. So I think it should be good fun in the NPB for the first couple days.
Yeah, check it out, rotowire.com for everything you need on all your international baseball.